All right, Cowboys Nation, lock in, because this one's going to be a ride. Today, we're pulling back the curtain, slicing through the fluff, and diving deep into what I truly believe is the most under-the-radar, high-impact, quietly chaotic storyline in all of Cowboys Nation right now. The cornerback room. And I'm not just talking about some random OTA notes or the typical, well, we'll see what happens at camp kind of discussion. Nah, this is different. This is serious. This is a collision of risk and opportunity that could define the ceiling of this entire defense. Because we've got injuries stacking, timelines shifting, prospects flashing, careers teetering on the edge, and a possible reunion looming that could completely reshape how the secondary looks by week 1, or by week 4, or heck, maybe never, if the Cowboys choose to gamble on internal development. And look, I get it, we all love optimism in the offseason, but let's talk real. If you're not concerned about the state of this cornerback unit, you're either ignoring the signs or overestimating the miracle of ACL rehab, because right now this entire group is riding a tightrope made of medical tape and potential, and we better start analyzing it like it matters. Because it does. So here we go. Let's break this thing down, and you better believe I'm bringing the fire today. Let's start at the top, with the report that stirred a quiet buzz among those of us watching closely. Nick Harris, who is frankly one of the most plugged-in, no-fluff beat guys covering this team, dropped a piece with updates on every corner of note. And let me tell you, there's a reason this article hit different. First, Trayvon Diggs, the lightning rod, the playmaker, the risk-taker who still divides Cowboys fans like no other. Harris says there's a chance he's ready for week 1, but the more realistic timeline, if you're paying attention to how the Cowboys operate with injuries like this, is 4 games. And before anyone panics, let's think. If you told me right now that Diggs misses just 4 games after tearing his ACL, I'd grab that outcome like it was the last plate at a Texas barbecue. Are you kidding me? 4 games? That's a win, especially considering the nature of this injury and how unique it is. We're not just talking any ACL tear. We're talking about a cornerback whose entire game is built around explosive breaks, fluid hips, and sudden directional shifts. This isn't a run stuffer or a box safety. This is a guy who needs that knee to be an elite weapon, and for him to even be in the week 1 conversation is wild. Now, will it happen? Honestly, I doubt it. I think the Cowboys are going to play it safe. That's just how they've been handling major injuries lately, and they know how important Diggs is in the back stretch of the season. So let's assume he starts on IR and misses 4 games. The next question becomes, who fills the void, and how do you stabilize that back end without panicking? Enter Stephon Gilmore, the veteran, the quiet warrior, the technician who, let's not forget, never wanted to leave in the first place. Now here's where things get interesting. Wani Thomas tweets out that he's had great talks with Gilmore, tags him, Gilmore responds, and immediately the fan base, myself included, raises an eyebrow. Is this real? Is it casual? Is it just a player hyping up a friend? Or is it Gilmore signaling something more? I say this, don't underestimate the power of relationship in this league. Wani and Gilmore have a real bond, and Gilmore was a stabilizing force for the Cowboys last season. He's a free agent, yes, but not because he's washed. He's just waiting, biding time, watching situations unfold. And if the Cowboys pick up the phone, I have zero doubt he answers. The only real question is, will they call? My gut tells me they're waiting. Waiting to see how Elam looks in full-speed camp action. Waiting to see if Muamu can hold down the outside. Waiting for Diggs to give them any timeline clarity. And that's a dangerous game because while patience can be smart, hesitation in the NFL has a nasty habit of turning into regret. And speaking of hesitation, let's talk about Josh Butler, the underdog, the heartwarming comeback story, the guy who clawed his way onto this roster last year with sheer effort and got people excited. But the ACL he suffered on Thanksgiving means we're looking at a mid-season return at best. That's not a cornerback you can count on in September, and maybe not in October either. So you probably try to sneak him to the practice squad, pray no one poaches him, and stash him as depth. Then you've got Savion Rebel, who I think is one of the most fascinating players in this entire position group, This dude was literally working overnight Amazon shifts before he took a leap of faith and turned himself into a legitimate NFL prospect. He's got all the traits you want: long, lean, fast, aggressive. But he's raw, and he's coming off his own ACL. So while the reports say he should be back by training camp, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys start him slow. Maybe a PUP stint, maybe they ease him in, because his long-term value is far too important to risk rushing him. And if he hits his ceiling, you might have a starter on your hands by November. But again, that's a maybe, and this team needs answers now, which is where Israel Muamu becomes such a fascinating pivot point. He's played everywhere. Outside corner, inside corner, safety. And while he hasn't gotten consistent snaps, every time he's stepped on the field, he's made something happen. A key tackle, a big play, a tip, a flash. And I think this is the year the staff says, all right, let's actually see what this kid can do with a real role. Especially if Diggs and Revel aren't ready. Now add in Kyra Elam, who honestly needs to show something this camp. The physical tools are there, no question, but now's the time to prove he's more than potential. And let's not forget about Kane Carson, who I was really high on during the draft. Young, explosive, raw. But last year, rough. Now he's coming off a shoulder issue, and he has got to show improvement, or he's just another value pick that never pans out. Harris says if there were 5 safe corners, Carson would have been the 5th, which means he's hanging on. And then you've got the true bubble guys: Booth Jr., Hall, Rochelle. Booth, in my opinion, is hanging on by a thread. He's on his 3rd DC in less than a year, hasn't taken the step forward, and unless he balls out, I think his days in Dallas are numbered. Hall's interesting though. He was pushing for a roster spot last year before injury derailed it. And if this team carries 6 corners, that CB6 spot might come down to who contributes the most on special teams, which puts Rochelle and Hall in the mix because those two can give you special teams snaps. And then there's CJ Goodwin, who I don't even count in the cornerback room. He's a special teams ace. He's going to make the roster, but he's not a coverage option. Now zoom out and look at the whole picture. This room is talented, yes, but it's also fragile, unproven, and riddled with question marks. The only certainties are Darren Bland and maybe Elam. Beyond that, it's a Wild West shootout of development arcs and injury timelines. Which brings us full circle back to Gilmore. Because if this team wants to make a real Super Bowl push, you don't roll into the season with maybes at CB2, CB3, and CB4. You call the vet, you bring him back. 1-year deal,